Now is William Lee. He's the chief economist at the Milken Institute, a think tank here in Washington. Give us a sense of why you think Shenzhen has become this favorite spot for job seekers.
Shenzhen is really at the heart of China's innovations, and innovation is going to be the one thing that's going to drive China into the 21st century, because going forward, to power the kind of growth that China needs with a declining population, it's going to have more and more high value added technological jobs, and that's where Shenzhen comes in.
Now, a lot of folks call Shenzhen the Silicon Valley of China, but I was reading one analyst who wrote this: unlike the Silicon Valley, where semiconductors, software, and other new technologies are born one right after the other, Shenzhen is a place for trend-conscious young people who can experiment and innovate. Is that a good way to kind of differentiate between these two, do you think?
Well, it's the type of innovation. Silicon Valley has been known for technological innovation, and that's where the trendy innovators go. President Xi's speech recently said Shenzhen must direct its innovation toward the needs of the center. And that is a differentiation because it is directed innovation. And that's going to, I think, limit the possibilities that new college graduates will be facing when they look for jobs in Shenzhen.
William, you've used one I word quite a bit, innovation. Let's talk about another I word, incentives, because it seemed like that piece was just about all these incentives in this tussle for talent. Is that a good way to attract these young tech entrepreneurs to Shenzhen, do you think?
Well, incentives are absolutely vital to shift resources to where they're needed. And right now, China needs more than anything tremendously talented people to work these high-tech jobs. The trouble is, not everyone has these skills. And in order to develop these skills, you have to put in lots of years of study. And that's where incentives come in. Are you willing to pay the cost in terms of time, money foregone, and years of grind to get the future promise of a better job? That's where the financial incentives come in.
And William, what's the overall outlook for job seekers within China, especially young people, would you say?
Well, now that we're coming out of COVID, China is expanding very rapidly, and every sector of China is expanding very rapidly. One of the challenges facing the younger generation of college graduates is, do I have the skills that fit the jobs that are available to me? Matching people with the right jobs is the key challenge, not just in China, but around the world.
What about adapting for that? I mean, you're explaining how everything's changing. Are people adapting quickly enough to this, do you think?
That's a great question. Right now, the unemployment rates being way above where they were pre-COVID here in the United States gives you an illustration of, even in a market economy where incentives and free flow of resources are encouraged, it's very hard to match people with the right jobs, with the right skills. I would imagine in China, where markets are less developed, it's even more difficult. And I think that's where governments are trying to step in to try to encourage that matching in a more centralized fashion.
Yeah, that may be one of the big challenges coming out of this pandemic. William Lee, such a pleasure talking to you. Thanks so much.
Thanks for having me.